Boston will soon host the world premiere of an immersive exhibit marking the 100th anniversary of the discovery of King Tut's tomb. WCVB is the proud exclusive media partner of Beyond King Tut, the immersive experience. Rondella Richardson with a preview.
Imagine 100 years ago at the tomb, archaeologist Howard Carter, in the dark, holding just a candle, turned to the Egyptians and said, "I see wonderful things." It's a fascinating story about a 9-year-old Egyptian boy who becomes king. His death at age 19 still a mystery.
King Tut, Tutankhamun, has become the most famous, the most recognized ancient Egyptian king. He probably would have gotten lost in the pages of history if it wasn't for this amazing discovery. To this day, it's the only intact tomb ever found. So archaeologists and historians have learned so much.
The kickoff of Beyond King Tut, the immersive experience, starts July 8th at the SOA Power Station in Boston. Mark Locke, back from the Valley of Kings in Luxor, has been in the tomb. He calls Boston a natural for the world premiere.
Boston seems to have this wonderful fascination with ancient Egypt. There was an exhibit that traveled here in the 60s.
It's amazing. I'm very excited.
Mario Nicosia owns the Blank Canvas, the SOA, a building more than 100 years old.
What's great about the building is the ceiling height. It's very open. It's 25,000 square feet of open space.
The wildly popular Imagine Van Gogh, the immersive experience, ran 12 weeks and closed just days ago, wowing 150,000 visitors. Next, see the solid gold death mask, the most recognized symbol of Egypt's boy pharaoh.
There's also this wonderful dressing mannequin of more of a boyish face.
Gold and thousands of tomb artifacts unearthed November 4th, 1922, made Tut the most popular king.
He had canes that he used in real life, but also canes that were not used, you could tell, that were for him to take into the afterlife. Models of boats to sail through the underworld and on to immortality.
King Tut's mummy likely the only chance to unravel the mystery of his death.
And scientists and CT scans and DNA testing on the mummy, we're learning things every day, and we'll talk about that.
435,000 were on the wait list to see the real artifacts tour Boston in 2020, but COVID canceled that. They went back to Egypt permanently. Now you can be the first to get this immersive experience right here in Boston, South End. Rondella Richardson, WCVB News Center 5.
Joining me now is Edmund Barry Gaither. He's the director and curator at the Museum of National Center of Afro-American Artists. Barry, the Beyond King Tut exhibit won't be here until later this summer, but I want to study up on King Tut before I go. What else can you tell us that we should know about King Tut?
Well, this is an exciting moment, and Boston is really an appropriate place. King Tut has come to symbolize the glory of ancient Egypt, and in that to anchor how we think about the cultural and civilizational heritage represented by the ancient Nile Valley. So all of us, especially those of us who are African American, claim him as a distant relative, as part of our cultural heritage, and as part of the cultural heritage of the entire world, which owes a great debt to the civilizations of the Nile Valley. So King Tut is a kind of glorious image of all of that. He represents not just the aesthetic beauty of it, with the mask and the finery of his tomb, but also the mystery of it.
Speaking of mystery, Lord Carnarvon was mentioned for fans of Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey, his Highclere Castle is where Downton Abbey was shot, just a little bit aside though. So we've said that Lord Carnarvon discovered the tomb 100 years ago. Of course, King Tut's people knew where the tomb was. So talk about any controversy about Lord Carnarvon entering the tomb, and does any of that controversy linger to today?
I don't know that so much is a lingering concern of today, but there is something else that parallels this, particular to Boston, that I'd like to interject, which is In 1923, a year after King Tut's space is done, King Espelta, infinitely less well known, but still a glorious figure of the Nile Valley, comes to Boston. And Boston becomes the largest repository of Nubian material outside of the Sudan.
At the Museum of Fine Arts?
At the Museum of Fine Arts. This is all in the same period of time. This moment in the 1920s when these discoveries come forward. They all bring us to other sets of issues that reverberate over the whole 100 years since then.
Tell us about that.
Those are issues that have to do with colonialism, with narratives about race and value, with questions of restitution and reparation, with whose heritage is all of this anyhow, and how do we honor and respect that. These issues, as they reverberate across the 20th century, produce results such as the UNESCO conventions about the ownership of objects. And in the very contemporary frame, this is the background to efforts of restitution that have ascended in importance and rapidity over the last decade or so, and which also our own Museum of Fine Arts has been a participant in. This is the restoration of objects from ancient Benin, from what's present-day Nigeria, and these are objects often taken as booty, as loot from sites tied to colonial wars. And just as the colonial wars themselves were exercises in violence that ripped away from these cultures the anchor which had been at their center and made those materials commodities, essentially, in the museums of Europe and to an important degree the museums of the U.S. Now all of that starts to come home.
Barry, you have given us lots of food for thought and much to study up on before we have an opportunity to go see this exhibit. We want to thank you for coming in.
Yes, put it in the big context, the whole picture.
Okay, very good. Edmund Barry Gaither, he's the director and curator at the Museum of National Center of Afro-American Artists. Again, thank you for joining us. Now, you can find a link to a ticket waitlist for Beyond King Tut, the immersive experience, on our WCVB app. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at CityLine5, and you can follow me on Twitter at Karen Holmes Ward. Have a great afternoon.